So if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to go just a little bit further. No, this isn't going to be a review of The Shawshank Redemption. Though, to be fair, that's a pretty great movie. This is going to be a review of this guy. It is the Transformers Legacy Breakdown. It is the last of the Stunticons. And you know what? Originally, I was not in for this set, but I also thought that they were going to be a lot bigger than what they were. And starting with Dead End, I said, I'll take a risk. I'll see how it goes. And now we have reached the end with this guy. In a separate review, we will compare Legacy Menasor to my, I guess, customized Combiner Wars Menasor. But how does this guy fare? Well, we're about to find out in the latest GotBot True review. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you are in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course you can hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this, of course, is the Legacy Breakdown. It is basically a reuse of the Wildrider mold. I think some things should have been remolded here a bit and changed at the very least. And I was fairly critical of the Wildrider. I found the tolerances very rough. I found attaching it to leg mode very rough. And I said then that I didn't feel like it was worth it because the engineering was really just the Combiner Wars engineering. But this guy's a little bit of a different story because his Combiner Wars offering was kind of completely different, right? A completely different mold with completely different engineering. And it was a mold I was never a fan of, largely because of those horrid hips. They were just terribly done. I will compare that version to this version because there are things about that version that I do prefer in comparison to this version. I will also note now, I cut his spoiler in half. It largely rests in robot mode now on the back of his legs. You may be able to see it here, you may not, that it did not cut straight. It's great, I think, to cut it. I think it should have been done in two separate pieces anyway. But my best advice, and I'll probably mention this in the review again when we get to it, my best advice to you is when you cut yours, if you cut your spoiler, take better care doing it than I did. It doesn't really bother me, but I'm not going to lie, my little bit of OCD that's in there really wishes that the split in the spoiler lined up with the split in the legs, and that could definitely be done. There's a way to cut it to be a nice, clean cut. Mine, not the case. So live and learn from my mistakes, right? I'll live, but I really wish I had taken better care with what I was doing there. My fault, nobody to blame but me. So outside of kind of that realization, and knowing that the criticisms levied against Wildrider won't quite be the same criticisms levied here, how about I stop babbling and we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. So here we have Legacy Evolution? Breakdown. And I say evolution with a question mark because obviously this guy's in regular Legacy packaging, even though he came out in Wave 1 of Legacy Evolution. The reason apparently being that they wanted, for those that are inbox collectors, to be able to have all of their Stunticons with the same sort of aesthetic on their box. And the box for the Evolution line is slightly different, of course. That said, the top has been redone because we do have the tech spec decoder thing up here. I didn't mention that in Scraphook's review, but his is also on the top of the box instead of on the back of the box. We do have Breakdown's face over here. That's a very good Breakdown face. We do have his full kind of, you know, body image down here. This is the vehicle mode. It is not a Lambo like it's supposed to be. Usually, of course, I do an introduction with our guy in front here. He's not here this time because, well, you'll see when we get there. On this side, we have the Decepticon Legacy artwork that we have, you know, become very familiar with over the last year or so. And on the back we have our boy in both modes with his boomerang, I guess we'll call it. So, I mean, there are instructions and I guess they're fine, but I don't know if we really needed them this time around. By the way, I will note this, on his instructions, though the box says Legacy, on his instructions it says Legacy Evolution. So take that for what you will. Why do I say that it kind of doesn't matter? Because really this is the Wildrider. So if you know that, then you basically know this. Because he comes with that boomerang thing, he only comes with one blaster instead of two. Pretty sure that this is just cast in white and painted black, but it's nice to see that it is painted nonetheless. And this is, of course, Breakdown. This is why I did not show him earlier at the very beginning. By the way, if you noticed when I showed the blaster that there was a little notch of paint that was after chipping, I noticed it too, and before I came back here with him, I actually took a paint pen that I have with a very fine tip and just filled in the chip that was there. But, you know, worth noting that I did have a chip. Not a big deal. I don't particularly care, and I'm pretty sure that was the only chip that I had. And it's filled in now. Nobody would ever know. None the wiser. I'm going to lay that aside. So this is leg mode. And in leg mode, I mean, I guess he's a solid leg for Menasor when we get there. For the record, Menasor is going to be a separate review where I'm going to kind of compare him with my custom Combiner Wars one and see which Menasor kind of takes the cake, so to speak. But, you know, again, this is exactly the way that Wildrider goes on. I will say this. This guy goes on infinitely easier than Wildrider did. That being said, is he as easy to take off? Oh, I'll note this too. I cut his spoiler piece so it's not a boomerang anymore. However, I was not as careful as I should have been. There's a beautiful line that goes down the center of his kind of rear end, really. And that line is where the two legs come together. My original goal, of course, was for the line on this to match that. It doesn't, and it drives me a bit nuts. So if you're going to cut yours, cut it with more care than I did. Nevertheless, it can peg in here just fine, not a big deal, and I'll show you what I do with it when I take them off. Let's see if he actually comes off the leg mode better than Wildrider, because Wildrider is terrifying to take off. The tolerances on trying to put Wildrider on and take him off are bonkers, and I don't like it. But this guy went on fairly easy. How about coming off? He came off all right. Still a little tight, but he came off all right, and this is what we end up with. To do the transformation to vehicle mode, all we're doing is bringing that down and bringing that down, and there is, boom, Breakdown in his vehicle mode. And here we have the Legacy Evolution and the Combiner Wars. The Legacy Evolution is definitely more white. It's still got a beige tinge to it, but not nearly as much as the Combiner Wars one. The Combiner Wars one, I feel like, pulls off the look of a Lambo a bit better. That said, neither one of these really nail it, right? I mean, the Combiner Wars is kind of like this weird cross between a Diablo and a Code Zero, so it's more Lambo-ish, I think, than the Legacy, but it's still not right. The Legacy is, like, the back end seems kind of like a Lambo, like from, say, here back, but the rest up front seems like a Ferrari, which is what Wildrider is, right? I feel like they could have at least helped some of that a little bit if they had remolded the hood section to be a little more like a Lambo, but they didn't, and such is life, I suppose. I guess it's okay successful, I suppose. Now, of course, the whole reason that I started him out in leg mode and now vehicle mode is to go back to robot mode, because we already saw the way he comes in a package with Wildrider. This is a chance to kind of document the transformation in the other direction, so to speak. And we'll see him compared to the Combiner Wars and robot mode after. Now, when I looked at this As Wildrider, I was really unimpressed with the transformation because I said it's Combiner Wars, just at about, 2 to 3 times the price, at least here in Canada. Didn't like it. The only thing that was different really is the way the chest flips, though it does essentially the same thing. The fact that the hood can split into 3 pieces if you don't want to leave it all together. And the fact that we have feet. But for Breakdown, it's a little bit of a different story because his Combiner Wars transformation was very different and I had a huge issue with it. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's see how this transformation works out for this guy. I'm going to begin by taking these off of the back. Some people leave them on there, on the back of the legs. And you can certainly do that. I'm going to give you a couple of options of kind of where you can put them. Once we have that done, we can begin by picking that whole piece up right there. It is the roof section, and I guess we can bring that up as well. We can undo a leg and undo a leg. They open out a la Combiner Wars, just like the Breakdown mold or the Prowl or the, I don't know, who else used that mold? Trying to think back now. Smokescreen used it. I said Prowl used it. A couple of the members of, I feel like, maybe it wasn't a couple of members. One of the members of Victorion used it. Wildrider used it. Dead End used it. Right? We all know that mold. So we come here, and once we have that off, we should be able to fold these out, split and fold these out. The knees are like ratcheted. They're so tight. I don't know why they like ratcheted the knees. I don't like that. Jeez, it just to me it just kind of makes things needlessly cumbersome. Make sure that that's lined up. Oh, I gotta make sure that it's all the way out. There, yeesh. Then we close this up and we bring a foot down. Make sure I got that knee all the way up, close it up, bring a foot down. I'm going to pick off the arms there. I'm going to rotate this around at the waist. I'm going to take out a hand here, again, sort of ratcheted. Bring that down to the side. Take out a hand here. Bring that down to the side. Now, with with the Combiner Wars, we just take this and fold it on the back. Here, you can do that, or you can, if I can do it now, sort of pick it off of this centerpiece. You know what? I'm going to leave it like that for now. We're going to take this forward and bring out the head. With the Combiner Wars, instead of folding the chest forward and bringing out the head, the whole chest folds up here, and then you fold it down. But I mean, it essentially does the exact same thing. Then this armature in here is supposed to come loose from this piece, but I can't get it to do it. I'm gonna have to do that and kind of get the backpack positioned the way it's supposed to be off camera. But in essence, boom, in the end, here we have Breakdown in his robot mode. Yeesh, trying to do that backpack, I find brutal. Now, the best way to do it, obviously, is to pick these out from the side, because there is a little, like, piece, I guess, that notches under. So you flay those out, and then this comes off easier. But I do find on my Breakdown and my Wildrider that this, I guess this hinge and how this tabs in is super, like, idiotically tight on both copies. Nevertheless, we got that done. Let's talk about where we can put these. So, some people I've seen have taken these after they've cut them off and they put them on the front. I wouldn't do that because it ruins the look of the guy. A lot of people put them on the pegs on the back of the leg. I have gotten into putting them down on the feet. As, like, I don't know, give them like an extra inch or so, I suppose, of height, maybe. Let's talk about the transformation first. I I don't really like the transformation of either of these breakdowns. I detest the hips of this guy. Detest. And I've always found that after you bring the leg up, trying to peg it over his folded up arm is a pain in the rump. This guy, that backpack, is an absolute nuisance and a pain in the rump. Just not... I don't know. If I gotta give his transformation a score, it's a little bit easier than it is with Wildrider, whose tolerances are idiotic, but I don't like the way the knees are like ratcheted. I don't like the way the wrists are like ratcheted. It's a nuisance to get them out. I feel like stuff gets in the way here. I'm giving it a 7. It's not, to me, it's not remotely enjoyable. I don't like going to any of the modes. It's a chore to go between modes. So best I can give it is a 7, and I'm only giving it that high because I know that other people out there really like it and think it's a great transformation. I have no clue why you would. Let's talk about the look. The look of this guy was always a little bit rough. The look of this guy is closer to accurate. We do have, you know, the silver and the blue where it really should be. On his chest, the red face, the yellow eyes, the kind of blue blockhead. Now, this guy has the tires up on the shoulders, as he's supposed to. This guy doesn't. But this guy has the blue hands. This guy doesn't, right? So neither of these are particularly perfect. Going down the body, the pelvis and the hips and the upper legs, they're just fine. The blue on the lower legs is fine. The feet should not be white. They too should be blue. I'm going to give the car mode is wrong on this guy. Again, I'm going to give it about a 7. It's, no, 7.5. You definitely know it's Wildrider, but there are colors that shouldn't be what they are, and the alt mode is outright wrong. So, I mean, I think I'm being generous with a 7.5. We have a 7 and a 7.5. What about the articulation for the guy? Now, the articulation with this guy, because of those trash hips, was ruined for me. There was a lot about him that I had problems with. For this guy, the head can go left and right, can look up, can't really look down. The arms, they can go forward and back, kind of all the way around, but not quite. Out to the side, elbow to 90 degrees, bicep swivel. Bicep swivel? Yeah, bicep swivel. Nothing at the wrist. That's a bummer. Nothing at the wrist. We have a waist. We have legs that can go all the way out to the side. I can take this guy out of it. Legs that can go all the way out to the side. Thigh swivel, knee, ankle tilt, in, forward, back, if I didn't already mention it. I feel like things move a little easier on this guy than Wildrider. He's certainly pretty solid and stands nicely. You can pull off most poses, but no wrist is a pain. I don't know why the knees had to be ratcheted here. I don't think it helps it. But pretty much everything is there that you could want other than the wrist. I'm going to give it a 9.5. So he was getting a 7 and a 7.5 and a 9.5. So 7 and 7.5 would be a 7.25. 9.5 really, really helps this guy. Brings him up somewhere around an 8, 8.25, somewhere around there. He is all right, but you're going to have to definitely be able to enjoy this transformation, which I don't, you might, and you're definitely going to have to be cool with the fact that his alt mode is just outright not right. If you can look past those things, then I guess it's an all right breakdown. I'll say this much. In robot mode, he is definitely better than the Combiner Wars, if for no other reason than the Combiner Wars had those garbage hips and toes that like to fold up like that. This guy doesn't have that, and I do, at least, respect that. Overall score about an 8.25. Not bad, but certainly could have been better. And here we are, and here he is. So, there's good and bad here, of course, right? So, like, the good, I think the off-white color here is better than the Combiner Wars one. I think that's too off-white. I think overall the paint scheme here is certainly a bit more accurate, in robot mode anyway. there's a lot of, especially on the arms, there's a lot of sharp edges, and I do find that I hurt my hand, kind of like bending his elbow and stuff. It's really, really tight. I detest the ratcheted knees. They're just scary during the transformation. I feel like the tolerances here, the transformation here is slightly easier than it is with Wildrider. I do find that attaching him to the leg of Motormaster Menasor is a lot easier than it is with Wildrider. I have a paint blemish on my white paint up here. There's a little bit of blue. There's a little blue spot there. That's unfortunate. I don't think I mentioned that in the review, but it is what it is. I did really struggle with kind of getting this whole section out. And to be fair, it does help if you actually angle out the sides like this, and then you try and pick it off of this hinge and then bring it down. And while that's great, I detest this look, so I push these back up. But even then, the tolerance on this hinge closed into the hood piece here, even with these out to the side like this, is still really tight on this copy. I don't think that's a widespread thing, but it is a criticism of my copy of the mold. Yours might work very, very easily there. It did affect the coverage, I guess, of the transformation, because I did have to kind of struggle with that. My bad. Such is life. It's just my copy of the mold. It's not really an overall gripe of the mold. What I like is that the overall silhouette does, I think, embody the character better in robot mode. Then we get to the car mode. I think the car is a failure. It's a Ferrari. I'm sorry. I guess the back end has been remolded enough that it's sort of Lamborghini Countach-esque. Certainly the spoiler helps, but I really feel like if you weren't going to like remold the roof and I guess the doors, at least remold the hood so it was a little more compact, a little more angular. I think if you had the front end and the back end, the middle section might have been forgivable. I'm not really sure. I think in car mode, the Combiner Wars is closer, but truth is, neither of them are going to be very perfect, right? I think this is okay, but I definitely think it's the weakest out of the set in terms of accuracy. It's middle of the road in terms of functionality. And as far as robot goes, it's one of the better ones. It's an okay breakdown, but I feel like maybe somewhere between the Combiner Wars and this, there's a more ideal breakdown. But truth be told, I don't think we've really had our ideal breakdown yet. Of course, that's just me. Let me know what you think about the Legacy breakdown. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel. And don't forget, especially, that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, whether you feel it or not, whether you realize it or not, you right there, you do make a difference in the world, man. You really do. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way right here inside the videos.